नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषण्यवादी पश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody for this sixth session discussion on Arjuna based upon the book Arjuna. I think you are able to see this book and the cover is here. So we are discussing today about education of Arjuna. In the Virata Parva, when the great, the boastful Uttar Kumar, every generation there are people who boast about their credibility. So there was this Uttara Kumara, the son of Virata. He was very boastful about how he can single-handedly defeat the entire Kuru army. So he came along with Arjuna as the main warrior, and Arjuna as a Brahannila was driving his chariot. After seeing the large army of the Kurus, he was totally taken aback. Almost fainted. He said, "Where did you bring me? This is not an army. This is the infinite ocean. I cannot face them." He jumped off the chariot. Arjuna chased him, grabbed him back, collected all his weapons. They came to the battlefield after knowing that this is Arjun. He was very inspired, but still he asked this question. He asked this question to Arjuna, how in the world, my dear Arjun, you are able to face single-handedly? Now, this is what separates great people even while performing their action. Arjuna said, do you not see? I am not single. And Arjuna, right on the battlefield, recollects all those who contributed for his learning. He said, Kuber is there with me, Agni is there with me, Indra is there with me, Lord Shiva is there with me, the great Drona is there with me, Bhishma is there with me, Yama is there with me. Of course, some of the names he did not take because some names are very confidential, very, very deep. But the point is, Arjuna was able to recollect all the names who contributed. Not only had the gratitude, but he had this conviction there with me to fight this battle single-handedly, apparently from the physical perspective. So Arjuna, being very hungry for learning from his very childhood, right? Because when Kunti performed tapasya, when Pandu Maharaj asked she asked Pandu Maharaj, whom should I invite? After the birth of Yudhishthira and Bhima, he asked her to invite Artha Kendrit Indraputra Arjun. And Arjuna, more than Indraputra, he was the expansion of Nar and Narayan, not ordinary. So therefore, to invoke that child, Kunti performed tapasya for an year. And Arjuna was born. The predictions were there from very beginning of his success. So therefore, when we discuss about Arjuna's education, the first person who was involved in Arjuna's learning is the Purohit of the Yadukula, Kashyapa Maharshi. Because Pandavas had not performed their sanskaras properly in the forest. And therefore, Kunti's father, Vasudev, sent Kashyapa, who could perform all the sanskaras, because sanskara is like a container. You are creating a very good container. Just like if there is a plastic bucket, you do not put Charanamrit in that. You do not put water to bathe the Lord in the plastic bucket. Depending upon the significance of the Abhishek, the container becomes more valuable. Golden pot, silver pot, not a plastic pot. So there is a patra and then there is the Vishaya. So these sanskaras create the pot, the container, and the content which comes eventually has the capacity to handle it. So Arjuna was made capable to handle all kinds of education through samskaras. They performed all the samskaras, including the sanskara of Upanayana. Upanayana sanskar is the beginning for learning education. That was Arjuna, he got that sanskara. Then along with his Upanayana samskara, he started studying the Vedas, not only archery. Arjuna knew the Vedas. He knew the Upanishad. He studied all this at the foothills of Shatashringa Parvat. And there was this great Vanaprastha from the Shrayati clan named Shuka. He had retired from everything, right? He was there to perform his Vanaprastha duty. But when he saw the Pandavas, their caliber, their ability, he basically suspended his Vanaprastha so that he can teach the Pandavas. Now it is very interesting. There is no retirement for an educationalist. As long as they have the power, physical senses intact, as they grow older in teaching, because they are learning also with teaching, they become more and more paripakwa. It is so sad, the rule of retiring people at the age of 58, especially the teacher, does not benefit the student, because that is the time they are in their peak of experience, wisdom, realization. So we see that in the Mahabharata, this Shuka, he retired from being retired and taught the Pandavas everything what they are supposed to do, the primary education. And they learned till Arjuna was 14 years. When Arjuna was 14 years, as we know, he lost his father. And the Pandavas came to Hastinapur, being not invited by the Kurus, but still, because Arjuna and the Pandavas were part of the Kurukula, Chandravamsha, they came there. Bhishma accepted the Pandavas. Now he was very eager for the Pandavas to learn. So in one sense, Bhishma did not directly teach Arjuna, but he facilitated learning of the Pandavas along with their Kula Guru Kripacharya. Imagine when you are surrounded by great teachers from early childhood, you become exceptionally good. That this book called as Outlier explains, the difference between ordinary student and exceptional student is not necessarily only their birth. Yes, we discussed that samskara, but providing those resources and opportunity. Someone like Bill Gates was holding computer when almost the entire world had no access to computer. Not only was seeing computer, basically was working for hours together. The potential, the opportunity and the hard labor makes someone exceptionally good. I remember talking to one great artist. His art is supremely fascinating. And I asked him, you know what, you are such a great artist. And I cannot draw a picture of a pot also. So what is the difference between my hand and your hand? Is there neurologically difference in your hand and my hand? I want to know from the medical perspective. He said, no, if you check your hand and my hand through MRI, कोई फर्क आपको दिखाई नहीं देगा. You will not find any difference. Yes, the sanskaras were there, but along with that, continual practice. The hand became so amicable and flexible that he can create art, but the art is manifesting in the mind. Right? So Arjuna got that opportunity learning from this great teacher Shuka for many years. They came to Hastinapur. Bhishma Dev was looking for the best of the teacher in the found. And his name was Dronacharya, the relative of Kripacharya. Dronacharya's agenda was different. For him, educating the Pandavas was a tool to fulfill his desire of taking revenge against his friend Drupada. And therefore, many times in the Mahabharata, it is explained, it is the Virata and Kuru Panchala Yuddha. Right? So the Panchala, Drupad Maharaj, was a friend of Drona. We know that he offended Dronacharya. And Drona wanted to take revenge against Drupad, and he was looking for a group of students who will be capable to, take action against Drupad. And he eventually came to Hastinapur, making it very clear that he will only train the children of the Kurukula. Apparently, even Drishtadyumna had a connection to Kurukula. Even though they had a different kingdom, there was a relationship between Drupad and the Kurus. So Drishtadyumna also learned. Karna also learned there because he was also ultimately part of the Kurukula only. He may not be known as the Kshatriya, but he had the Kshatriya spirit. Those who say Drona rejected Karna, they need to study Mahabharata properly. He also studied under Dronacharya. So, Arjuna and the other Pandavas, including the Kauravas, started studying from Dronacharya. The beauty of this school, when people ask this question, why Kurus did not change? उनमें परिवर्तन क्यों नहीं आया? Why they did not become culturally refined? Mahabharata explains very clearly that was not the interest of Drona. That was not the interest of Dhritarashtra also. He specifically mentioned, let them not learn any kinds of values, sadachar, focus on learning the skill. So that was the distinction between the Pandava Sanskara and Kaurava Sanskara. Both remained the same. And both learned a skill. Skill was there, Samskara was not there. It was like a typical technological college, where the college does not care about what you do and what you don't. They focus on teaching. So Dronacharya came with an agenda, but he became extremely attached to Arjuna. And being attached to Arjuna, Dronacharya, as we know, he was partial to his son. Up until now, he had not developed great attachment to Arjuna. He was teaching, he was learning. He could see that Arjuna is special. What happened was, Dronacharya, being partial to his son, would teach something special to Ashwathama. And the Kauravas and the Pandavas had gone they would go regularly to fetch water. So Arjuna could basically understand that Dronacharya is teaching something which is not teaching us, but is giving special preference to his son Ashwathama. So therefore what Arjuna did, he did not go and complain. He basically learned the art of fetching water from wherever he was, from a distant place, through the Varunyastra, and the water would come to him. Drona was extremely fascinated to Sri Arjuna's ability and eagerness, and along with the eagerness making a strategy. उत्साह के साथ में प्रयास न हो, there is उत्साह, there is enthusiasm, but along with that there is a perpetual strategy to pick up the knowledge more and more. Arjuna picked up faster learning compared to other students. And Dronacharya told, never feed Arjuna in the darkness. And lo and behold, they made that mistake. Arjuna was eating one time because the torches went off, the mashal went off, but Arjuna continued to eat. The prerana came to him, inspiration came to him, an impetus came to him. If I can eat in the darkness, I can also practice. That day onwards, Arjuna did not sleep in the night. That is how he became Gudakesh during his learning. Dronacharya was fascinated to see that. And the next lesson, along with whatever Arjuna was learning, the next lesson was, shooting the bird, the head of the bird. Everyone was asked to shoot the bird, but Dronacharya was asking different questions. And he was not satisfied to give them the task because they were distracted. And their distraction was not born out of chanchalta, their distraction was born out of being conscious of other things. Vidyarthi cannot be too mature too early. Sometimes we see in the social media, some 7-year girl, 10-year boy, 12-year of children, they're speaking too much philosophical stuff which is beyond their age. उसमें बहुत दृष्टि पड़ जाती है. Right? Some of the great musicians and the teacher, they would not allow their student to perform or give the concert till certain age. Therefore, this Arangetram is there in the Bharatnatyam and other part of the music or dance. They have to go through certain years of rigorous training and then they're allowed to come on the stage. So this was one very, very important test for the Pandavas and Kauravas. And Arjuna was known for focus. Perfection in his focus. What an answer he is giving when Drona called for Arjuna to shoot. He said, what do you see? He said, I see the bird. Do you see the tree? No. Do you see the bird itself? He said, no. I only see the head of the bird. Arjuna stopped seeing everything around him. This imagination, this concentration, this sankalpa made him so special. Then Dronacharya said, shoot it. He knew before shooting was simply a detail, the disposition was the essence. Uski mansikta, his mindset was telling Dronacharya, here is this boy, will shoot. And lo and behold, Arjuna shot, the head came down, and Dronacharya knew very clearly that day. His affection for Arjuna started becoming unconditional. The agenda for teaching Arjuna was there. But now he wanted to teach Arjuna because Arjuna was a fascinating student. Wahan agenda kam hone laga. And there Dronacharya decided that this boy will fulfill my desire of beating Drupada. One day Dronacharya was basically taking bath. As he jumped into Yamuna, some say Ganga, when he jumped into the water, there was a crocodile. He created the crocodile. And the crocodile captured him. It was like a Maya crocodile, captured Arjuna, captured Dronacharya, and he called out for help. Now, one of the great quality of Arjuna that he thrives when there are challenges. Because life is not a sports game. Life is much more uncertain, much more challenging, much more exciting compared to a cricket match or a football match. People can do prediction, okay, the 70% the success rate is there, 80% success rate is there, therefore they can win. Right? But here life does not offer that luxury. Shooting the bird being on the tree is difficult, no doubt. It is basically challenging the ability of concentration. But here, crocodile being caught by Dronacharya, it is not challenging your aim, it is challenging your ability to respond to the most challenging situation with that concentration what Arjuna had for shooting the bird. Everybody was looking here there. Arjuna picked up his arrow and he shot that crocodile in such a way it did not harm Dronacharya. Only the arrows were released in such a way that the crocodile's mouth kept open. Some teachers say he shot in such a way that the crocodile could not bite the foot of Drona. Dronacharya was protected, and then he gave him a special weapon called as Brahmashira. Now, Brahmashira weapon, while giving it to Arjuna, Dronacharya said, my dear Arjun, this is not supposed to be used to the ordinary living entities. It is not supposed to be used in ordinary time. This is used for fighting the higher beings. And imagine when Arjuna received the Brahmashira, both Karna and his son Ashwathama approached, begging and pleading, humko bhi chahiye, we also want it, we also want it. The interesting part of education today we were discussing, you cannot make a socialism of education. You cannot create everyone equally capable of learning everything and anything. Not possible. Therefore, there is the concept of Swadharma. Now, Karna and Ashwathama had the ability to learn, but they did not have the mindset and the disposition to apply it properly. So, therefore, Dronacharya said, only a self-controlled Brahmana, a tapasvi Brahmana and self-controlled Kshatriya can learn this. Since both of you lack this quality, I will not teach you. Ashwathama was upset. He insisted his father. Father taught him half of the Vidya, releasing but not withdrawing. But Karna was not able to learn. Therefore, he came to Parshuram, not because he did not teach him. He did not teach him a specific weapon. This was during this time. And after that, naturally, there was a convocation ceremony. Convocation ceremony is basically properly an exhibition match. In the exhibition match, apparently it looks like that Arjuna was inferior to Karna. One 7-8-year-old girl, she was listening to, she was seeing this Mahabharata, and she was arguing with me. No, Drona, Karna is better than Arjun. I said, that is that part of the episode, you are right. In that exhibition match, apparently, it looks like that Karna did everything what Arjuna could do and little more. But education is not an exhibition. Education is all about application. ग्रेड एक होती है और वो ग्रेड को लेकर अपग्रेडिंग योर परफॉर्मेंस, योर कंट्रीब्यूशन, योर प्रोडक्टिविटी बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. That is also part of learning. Learning according to the Upanishad doesn't stop in Gurukul. Rather, learning becomes an ongoing process. Learning becomes your conditioning. And you learn something what you have never learned in the school also, because it is application based. Now the time came for Arjuna. Arjuna had gone through protecting Dronacharya in that story of crocodile. So then next after exhibition, Dronacharya asked for Guru Dakshina. When he asked for Guru Dakshina, they said, what Guru Dakshina? He said, go and capture Drupad alive. Usko marna nahi hai. The Kaur was very eager. They said, we will do that, because Duryodhan was very confident about Karna's capacity, his ability. So they went to fight Drupada. Pandavas were looking. There were the spectators. And they went there. And lo and behold, within no time, Drupada defeated the entire Kuru army, including Karna, who ran away from the battlefield. Then the Pandavas took blessings, especially Arjuna and Bhima, and they fought in such a manner. As I said, Arjuna always plays for a winning cause. There is no defeat for Arjuna. When Arjuna performs, it is guaranteed that the success will come generally. Therefore, Arjuna represents success. Arjuna represents completeness. Arjuna represents fulfillment. Arjuna represents meaningfulness. अर्थ को प्रतिनिधित्व करने वाले अर्जुन. He went there, he fought, seamlessly captured Drupad without insulting him, and therefore Drupad was fascinated by Arjuna, angry with Dronacharya. Therefore, after the release of Drupad, Drupad made a vow. I will call for the great sages, Aja and his other brother. So these two people, one of them performed the yajna, and one son was born to kill Dronacharya, and one daughter was born to marry Arjuna. He became so fascinated. That is the beauty of Arjuna. In defeating also, he is extremely good. Then through the intervention of Chitraratha, Arjuna came in contact with Daumya Rishi and the Pandavas. Now this is one of the irony. Those who are expert in Mahabharata, they have seen Mahabharata. I do not remember in B.R. Chopra's Mahabharata or the Sony Mahabharata, one of the most important personality in the life of the Pandavas is Daumya Rishi. Dronacharya taught Pandavas skill. Daumya Rishi taught Pandavas life. बहुत बड़ा अंतर है. Skill is part of life, right? But this skill of living life is much greater. It gives foundation. Therefore, even in the secular world, they say education has 4 components: knowledge, skill, values and character. Dronacharya gave them the knowledge and the skill. Daumya Rishi gives them the character, refining them, and he gives them the value. And what was the value of Daumya Rishi? Daumya Rishi said, I promise you Pandavas, in your good times and in your bad times, I will always be there. Imagine, when did the Pandavas find Daumya Rishi? They found Daumya Rishi when the Pandavas were sent to Lakshagraha by Dhritarashtra, when they are about to be burned to ashes, Vidura protected them, right? And then they came in contact with Chitraratha. They did some exchange of gifts, and Chitraratha guided them to Daumya Rishi. That is much before 14 years of exile. That is much before the marriage of Draupadi. And that Daumya Rishi stayed with the Pandavas for the rest of their life, except for 1 year when the Pandavas were in exile. In incognito, not exile. During incognito, Daumya Rishi stayed away from the Pandavas so that they cannot be recognized. That was the contribution of Daumya Rishi. Foundational identity, refineness came from Daumya Rishi, but that is the reality of the world. The reality of the world is that we are fascinated by the external. This is the story. Because teachers like Daumya Rishi and students like Arjuna's, they do not make issue out of such teachers. And the teachers do not make issue out of such students. When the Pandavas became king of Hastinapur, Kripacharya was responsible directly assisting Ashwathama, who massacred the Pandava children, was reappointed as Kulaguru of the Pandavas along with Daumya Rishi. When Parikshit Maharaj was named as Parikshit, Kripa was there and Daumya Rishi was also there. Such a great teacher. Then Arjuna also learned from Indra. Indra also facilitated when the Pandavas had gone to Vanvas for 14 years, 12 years of Vanvas and 1 year of incognito. Out of this 12 years, Arjuna stayed 5 years in the heavenly planet. And while living in the heavenly planet, he defeated the demons Nivata Kavachas, and because of that, Arjuna, Indra gave him many divine weapons and also asked Chitrangada, the heavenly person, remember whom Arjuna had defeated, he had become Chitrata. He was a Gandharva. So he taught Arjuna many vidyas. Arjuna knew dance. Arjuna knew how to play Veena. Therefore, the cover of the book you can see on the background there is Arjuna was playing Veena. Extremely good at playing Veena, good at dancing, good at basically making Rangoli. Powerful masculine man had the refined quality of doing Rangoli also. Then Arjuna knew the art of braiding the hair of the girls, as the Brahmanelite did that. Right, that he learned from Chitrarata. And then Arjuna, interestingly, also learned from Lord Shiva the Pashupatastra. 2 बार दिया Pashupatastra Shivji Bhagwan ने. One time there was a battle between Lord Shiva and Arjuna. Of course, Arjuna realized every time I shoot, they're turning into flower and falling at the, kind of a ling or at the feet of Lord Shiva. Then he realized this is not ordinary. And then basically Lord Shiva gave him Pashupatastra. Received that Pashupatastra, but again went to Kailash to bring Pashupatastra along with Krishna, because you have to have mantra siddhi. Then actually Arjuna also learned from Yama, Varuna, Kubera and other personalities. And of course Arjuna learned from in Agni also. Agni gave him the Gandiva weapon and gave him that special Ratha. See, Vidya, what does Vidya do? Vidya not only gives wisdom, Vidya gives skill, and Vidya also gives different resources, makes you specially able. Imagine Arjuna had this flag which was very unique. It could go as high as possible, and it did not ever get obstructed by wall, trees. It would become subtle and move forward. Arjuna never had to bring his flag down, neither Arjuna had to take a reverse. It would move forward. Another interesting part of Arjuna is that generally when the warriors would fight on the battlefield, they would have a support system of many warriors. The support system of carrying the weapons in the bullock cart, especially arrows. How many arrows can you hold? Imagine from sunrise to sunset somebody is fighting and constantly shooting arrows, right? You need thousands of arrows, and a chariot has to run faster. So the supply chain, just like in the fighter plane, the planes when they're flying in the sky, the support system comes in mid-air. They do the act of filling the fuel in the fighter plane, and this plane goes away protecting itself from the enemy. It has to go back carrying so much of oil. Similarly, same thing happens in the navy ship also. We see that, and you see that in the Mahabharata. Always the warriors would have many bullock carts except Arjuna, because Arjuna had an inexhaustible cure. It would keep producing limitless arrows, just like the Pandavas had the Akshaya Patra. Akshaya Patra stayed with them only for some time, but this inexhaustible quiver stayed with the Pandavas, Arjuna, as long as the battle was not over on the Kurukshetra ground. Right? That was the special caliber of Arjuna. And then we also see Arjuna learned something from a lady also, a woman. One may say, "Arey, patriarchal," lot of this word is used in the modern world about, Hinduism is patriarchal, the entire creation is patriarchal, blaming the Srishti also, blaming God also, blaming the system also, right? But if you study, wherever the knowledge came, wherever the Vidya came, they were willing to learn from them. There was this girl called as Ulupi. And this Ulupi, when Arjuna was traveling, we will discuss that tomorrow, next week. When Arjuna was traveling, Arjuna's travels, marrying Draupadi and Vanvas, we will do next week. When Arjuna was traveling, because of certain incident that we will discuss next week, he came in contact in a place. As he was about to perform his yagya, sacrifice, Arjuna was dragged by someone inside the water. And this Ulupi, her name was Ulupi, the daughter of Naga. Interestingly, as Arjuna entered into the water, because he had not performed his Agnihotra, he found their fire. Before even understanding where I have come, who is this person, he didn't bother to him. He said, "Mera ye jo puja hai na, ye mera Agni Sanskar." He performed the Agni Sanskar, Agnihotra kiya, and then he inquired. And that Ulupi, who married, of course, Arjuna, she taught a special Vidya to Arjuna in regards to becoming invincible in water. पानी में अर्जुन invincible बन गया. Right? Heavenly planets he went in for the Nivata Kavachas. On the ground, he was exceptionally good. Now he became so good in the water body that after being with Ulupi, as Arjuna was passing towards the southern side of the ocean, if I'm said rightly, so he came in touch with Pancha Kundas, 5 ponds. tirthas, 5 tirthas, pancha tirthas. But this pancha tirthas, nobody would take bath in that pancha tirtha. Arjuna was quite shocked. How is it possible? These are powerful tirthas and people are not taking bath. Then he got to know from the sages, there are in this pancha tirtha, there are 5 crocodiles in each tirthas and they drag human being. Arjuna just entered there. He basically healed this crocodile who were apsaras in their birth before being cursed by the sages. He delivered from their curses using the education given by Naga princess. The Naga warfare, underwater combat, right? And then Arjuna also learned many things from Bhishma Dev. Arjuna learned, what did he learn from Bhishma Dev? He learned something fascinating from Bhishma Dev. Just like he learned from Dharma Rishi life, Arjuna learned high sensitive morals from Bhishma Dev. When the great Bhishma Dev was passing away, whatever knowledge he had acquired, all that knowledge Bhishma Dev gave to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and of course, the Pandavas were there listening, including Arjuna. And what to speak? There are so many sages. The concept of Sharanagati. Where do you think Arjuna learned from Sharanagati? The knowledge of Sharanagati was given to the Pandavas by Markandeya Rishi. उन्होंने उनको ज्ञान दे दिया, शरणागति का ज्ञान दिया. He taught them the art of being exclusively surrendering to Sri Krishna. Markandeya Rishi taught them. And the interesting part, whether he was in the heavenly planet for 5 years or traveling with the Pandavas, when they were traveling across, they would meet the sages. You do not see those who are in exile going to the city. When Balramji traveled, he went to Balaji temple, Gokarna. He visited the holy Tirtha along with the temples. But when you study Pandavas traveling during their exile, one of the greatness of Daumya Rishi was that Daumya Rishi would take Pandavas to different sages. They would stay with them for some time. They would learn from them. After learning, they would go to the next place. So we can see so many, like having a school with rich teachers background. Sabse bada durbhagya, the modern tragedy is that the schools are very sophisticated. People have money to sponsor the best of the schools, but you know what is the tragedy? The greatest tragedy is that you do not find teachers who want to teach. Teaching is their passion. Teaching is simply a job which is less stressful. That's what people say. But teacher's job is never less stressful. It is actually inviting perpetual stress, because the teacher does not ever deal with a learned student. He deals with the ignorant student who become learned. So the Pandavas went around learning from so many people, so many teachers. Tirtha, going from one place to other place, going from one place to other place. And the Pandavas, especially Arjuna, did not stop learning from Vidura. Right? Vidura taught them certain core values. The Pandavas learned the entire concept of Daiva from Vyasadeva. Why do you think the Pandavas did not fight when they got married with Draupadi? Why do you think the Pandavas did not have a confusion about marrying Draupadi? Yes, Vyas, our Yudhishthira Maharaj felt, the mind is telling me that we should all marry together. that was also there, that was correct, but they were also influenced by Vyasa's prediction, who had told that you will marry Draupadi. He was the predictor of destiny, but in a very subtle way. Vyasdev taught them so many things. Bhurishrava was there. And therefore, when you study Pandavas, especially Arjuna for that matter, the hunger for learning did not make them feel that I know everything. This whole idea of I know everything, it is so dangerous because the knowledge is infinite, Prakriti is infinite, the devotion to God, Krishna, is infinite. Yes, the process is profound and simple, but part of that process of simplicity is to say that I know so less. Only when you has the power to say I know less, then the content becomes more and more because the container is expanding. पात्र बढ़ता जाता है, अर्जुन का पात्र बढ़ता गया, बढ़ता गया, बढ़ता गया, बढ़ता गया. Right? And the right knowledge kept on increasing for Arjuna. That never ever stopped for Arjuna. From Vyasadev, Vidur, Bhishma, Kripacharya, Dronacharya, the Shuka Rishi, the Kashyapa Maharshi performing all the sacrifice, Mother Kunti teaching the Pandavas through Krishna when he came as a peacemaker. Kunti का बहुत सारा ज्ञान देती हो. Draupadi, Yudhishthira Maharaj debating with each other in regards to danda is superior or punishment is superior. Arjuna was a student listening to that dialogue also. They learned from Hanumanji. Arjuna had met Hanumanji before. Hanumanji had promised to Arjuna also. And then of course he reconfirmed his promise of being the flag at the insignia on the chart of Arjuna. Imagine, the great student of Suryadev Hanumanji is right sitting over your chariot. How much knowledge is transmitted. But after having all that also, what happened to Arjuna? Arjuna was still bewildered. Itna sara gyan, after having so much of knowledge, when he was supposed to perform the final examination for Arjuna, right, where he was supposed to apply everything what he had learned at one go. And what happened then? Arjuna basically fumbled. Arjuna basically became completely bewildered. And he had fought the war just few days ago. The Virata's battle was not long. It was fresh in his memory. And the beauty of that war, when Arjuna met Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, single-handedly, just before fighting, Oja Sanskar, releasing that arrow close to the ears of these three personalities, and also sending arrows at their feet, near the ear at their feet. One is seeking permission, second is seeking blessing, brought tears in the eyes of the great Drona and Bhishma Deva. Even though during the exile none of these people came to meet, Arjuna did not hold any grudges against these personalities. देख के उनके ऊपर बाण आशीर्वाद के रूप में, सम्मान और अनुमति के रूप में उन्होंने बाण छोड़ा था, which brought tears and their hair stood on end. And in that battle, Arjuna single-handedly defeated everybody, and he remembered something very insignificant. Imagine you're fighting such a big battle, but Arjuna remembered something very insignificant. What was that insignificant thing? Very significant for Arjuna. As Brahannela, Arjuna was a Brahannela, he was teaching Uttara, the great mother, future mother of Parikshit Maharaj, the wife of Abhimanyu. The brother's personality of Uttar Kumar was a boastful, and Arjuna converted him to a confident person. On very first day fighting Bhishma, he lost his life, and he fought so great, Uttar Kumar. But his sister Uttara, as Arjuna, as a Brahmanala, she didn't know it was Arjuna. She told, when my brother defeats the great warrior of the Kurus, please, such a fascinating, heart-touching story. She told, please collect the upper cloth of the great warriors of Kurus, because I want to use that cloth for making, the outfit for my dolls, my toys. And what did Arjuna do? At some point of time, as the battle was progressing, Arjuna released Sammohanastra, making everyone fall unconscious. And he told Uttar Kumar, now you get down. Go to everybody. Collect their upper cloth. The Kurus did not disrobe the Pandavas and Draupadi. Their attempt failed. But here Arjuna himself did not do. Still respectful. Upper cloth does not make you, removing upper cloth does not make you naked. But removing upper cloth questions your dignity. No? And he picked up, except he had told never go close to Bhishma Dev, because he knows how to retaliate the Sammohanastra. The sight of Arjuna collecting all that, Uttara collecting all those clothes, bringing it to Arjuna, and Arjuna carefully taking it back to Uttara, shows the dignified quality of Arjuna. The education made him extremely fulfilled. Education made him confident, not boastful. Right? And doing something like this very insignificant act of, bringing cloth, significant to Uttara, significant for Arjuna, and giving it to her. So therefore Arjuna becomes special recipient of Krishna's mercy, Krishna's friendship, Krishna's investment in Arjuna. Right? That part we will discuss, how Krishna taught Arjuna Bhagavad Gita. In one sense, it was culmination of reconfirming in his own dynamic language. Whatever Arjuna had learned many things before. We saw that, whether it is Veda, Upanishad, Dhanurvidya, whatever he learned, because everything what he learned, there was the philosophy behind it. So therefore, that philosophy manifests in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna reminding Arjuna what he already knew, but in the language, in the disposition which was fresh and new. And therefore, in the Mahabharata, the great Arjuna, after the ascending of Sri Krishna back to the spiritual world, he remembers the teaching given by Krishna more than anything else on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. By simply remembering that, what happened to Arjuna? All the kalmasha, all the dirt, whatever leftover dirt was there, it was completely cleansed. And that Arjuna also learned something. Maybe sometime we will do this. I will not speak about Bhagavad Gita. But after the battle was over, Krishna and Arjuna were strolling on the bank of Yamuna. And Arjuna was in very light mood. And he told Krishna, my dear Krishna, you know what? I think I forgot what you taught me. Can you repeat what you taught me, Bhagavad Gita? And Krishna was a little disappointed. He chastised Arjuna. And the Lord Sri Krishna said to Arjun, I cannot say that now. It had a different energy. But I will teach you something which is closer. Bhagavad Gita was taught on the battlefield of Kurukshetra by Krishna to Arjuna. And after the battle was over, in line with Bhagavad Gita, Krishna taught Arjuna called as Anugita. Anugita gives emphasis to Karma Yoga. Janak Maharaj, who is quoted in the 3rd chapter in one shloka or 2 shloka, his episode is elaborated in the Anugita, how he is a Karma Yogi. And Anugita runs more than 700 shlokas, I think more than 1400 to 1500 shlokas are there in Anugita. Krishna took Arjuna through that knowledge because Arjuna always remained a student. Hunger for learning never stopped. We'll conclude in the Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, that explains that students like Arjuna, they do not stop learning in Gurukul. They do not come out of the Gurukul because their learning is complete. They come out of the Gurukul because learning has become their conditioning. They keep on learning because Vidya is infinite and Vidyarthi is always a finite. विद्यार्थी एक कण के समान और विद्या आकाश के समान, विद्यार्थी एक बूंद के समान एंड विद्या समुद्र के समान, कृष्ण भक्ति इनफाइनाइट समुद्र के समान, and our bhakti is very insignificant. Therefore, as one comes closer to Vidya, they realize how less they know. As one comes closer to Krishna, they realize how less love they have. And therefore, if you study in the Bhagavatam, like Srila Prabhupada would talk about this, in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita month is coming. Right in the introduction, if you read, he talks about the limitation of the language itself. In the first canto of the Bhagavatam, he talks about, writing in a foreign language. Where Narad Muni, of course Narad Muni also taught the Pandavas. That we will discuss tomorrow when Arjuna's travel is there. There in the introduction, it talks about the limitation of his ability to produce in a foreign language. In the Gita's introduction, it talks about the limitation of the language itself, wherein certain non-translatable cannot be translated. Dharma, Karma, Atma, Ishwar, Brahman, one of the greatest fault when you translate something in English, like the Gyanis sometimes they call I am God, but they want to say I am Brahman. I am Brahman cannot become I am God because Brahman is not exactly God. उसके लिए अनुवाद नहीं है. Right? So the limitation, what does it do? Understanding that I am limited gives rise to greater learning. And therefore Arjun, in the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjay, he concludes Gita by saying, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara Tatra Sri Vijay Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Krishna is infinite, representing infinite. Arjuna is finite, but is the perfect finite. He is on the path of perfection. जब ये दोनों साथ में आते हैं, Krishna is the visionary, Arjuna is the active fighter. वो दोनों साथ में आने से क्या होगा? Sanjay's conclusion, there will be victory, there will be prosperity, there will be stability. Right? These are the 3 qualities which are desirable to live in the world. And 4th is great morality, like the Adhyatma Vidya. ये चारों एक साथ में आएगा, and that is what Arjuna represents, partnership with Sri Krishna to perform his own duty to himself and contribute to others. So next week we will see the story and the journey of winning Draupadi, and also basically his travels to Vanavas. For your information, Arjuna was separated from the Pandavas for 5 years during the 12 years exile, but he was separated from the Pandavas after Yudhishthira Maharaj became the king of Hastinapur for 12 years. अकेला भ्रमण कर रहा था 12 साल के लिए. 5 years, 12 years with the Pandavas. Within that 12 years, 5 years he went to heavenly planets. But this, when Yudhishthira Maharaj was ruling Hastinapur, Arjuna went 12 years. Why this happened? This was after marrying Draupadi. This was after making Yudhishthira Maharaj the king after the Rajasuya sacrifice, and before and after. So in between the gambling match and after the Rajasuya sacrifice, Arjuna went for 12 years. Thank you for your kind attention. Any questions or comments? We can take 1 or 2 questions. No? Okay. Yes, one question is there. We will take this and learning through Mahabharata, we get inspiration, and many times certain doubts also emerge, like many of its personalities are born with talented, and also know that 3 quality, but we are not like them. We see most of them are good or bad from birth only, so it creates doubt that his nature really changes. They get sanskar and some resources from childhood only, which we get at the youth, so doubt emerges. Why should we try? Also, and its financial condition matters. If for many years due to the situation we have to work in a field which doesn't match our conditioning, we start thinking, now why should I follow my talent as it is late? We are saying Drona is a teacher with agenda, but then Chanakya also teach Chandragupta to take his revenge from the Nanda dynasty. There are too many questions, too many things in this. If you study again properly the Sanatan teachings, Dharmic teaching, our sanskaras are not only our limitations, our sanskaras also have a potentials. Nobody can be like Duryodhan, nobody can become Hiranyakashipu, and nobody can be like Prahlad. What the Shastras teach, we oscillate between Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu. Sometimes we lean towards being Prahlad, sometimes we lean towards attracted to the qualities of meanness, right? So therefore, even if you do not have any resources for whatever reason, but if you are collecting the merits, because life is, unfortunately, when we judge life based upon one lifetime, as a dharmic follower, we cannot judge ourselves based upon one lifetime. Our limitation may cause some humbleness. Oh my God, I have lack of resources, I am good for nothing, why that person has so much, right? But when you study, oh, I had this limitation because there was something, but this limitation is not my destination. This limitation is the journey. Just like somebody has 50 lakh rupees loan, right? If we can reduce it to 25 lakh rupees, that is also some kind of relief. 50 के बदले में 25 हो गया. Next year I'll try to pay more. Therefore, do not see life from one Janma's perspective. One Janma is a very deceptive idea. Time is limitless. So in that time, 10 lifetime, if you are conditioned and slowly growing to achieve perfection, it is not anything less. Infinite के सामने 10 lifetime is very small. 3 lifetime is very small. 3 years is very small. 10 years is very small. The problem in the modern time is that we do not have the disposition of waiting. If you all know, in the generation where people have to wait for the teacher to come, you couldn't tell them, where are you, kahan ja rahe ho? Your father, mother, if they are gone out for something, you don't know when they are going to come. So there was a disposition of patience. आज ऐसा नहीं है, we have video call, we have audio call, we have phone call, we have WhatsApp call, यानी कि हमने हमारे कन्वीनियंस को बढ़ा दिया, कंट्रोल ओवर मटेरियल सिचुएशन को बढ़ा दिया, बट पेशेंस को खत्म कर दिया, प्रतीक्षा को खत्म कर दिया. वनवास किसी को नहीं चाहिए 12 साल का, राइट? A child is not even grown, become a celebrity, giving gyan. The material nature, the human laws may change, technologically the human laws may change, but the material laws will not change. They operate on the same principle. Whether it is Ram's Vanvas or whether it is Pandava's Vanvas, Vanvas is the preparation time. Vanvas is learning the disposition time. तो इसलिए जो इसको नहीं एकत्रित करेगा वो जल्दी थक जाएगा. जो थकेगा नहीं, one who is not tired of working relentlessly and having the patience कि मुझे मिलेगा. Now the great people of भारत 500 साल की प्रतीक्षा, कौन सा ऐसा civilization है you can tell which reclaimed their lost temples? Go to the Europe. Europe was not a Christian nation before Christianity came there. Are they reclaiming? Go to South America. Are they reclaiming? But the Hindu civilization, the Dharmic civilization, is teaching us the concept of you born in the forest like the Pandavas. You are growing, contented, you come to Hastinapur, you face a lot of challenges even after coming to Hastinapur. Again you go to the forest, you are about to be burned, you escape, you loiter here and there, you get good teacher, you come, you become a king, again you lose for 14 years. ये कथा नहीं है, ये जीवन है. और जिसको वनवास चाहिए, 14 साल का वनवास नहीं चाहिए, इनकॉग्निटो नहीं चाहिए, वो नहीं चाहिए, they are not in the race of life. They are like the Jugnu, firelight. So इसलिए please, there is no solution other than this reality, because the story is not story, a story is a reality. Thank you for raising this question. One question I'll take. What should the modern day reciprocation between student and teacher be? Is the monetary transaction sufficient to offset the depth of knowledge? In age of Google, how can we give knowledge the life that it needs? Information seems dead and real knowledge feels inaccessible. Yeah, this is again like today only I was discussing with one student. Tool is not to eliminate the teacher and student relationship. The modern tools are supposed to enable, increase the efficiency. Therefore, there are certain, I have seen certain learning centers, to speak practically, they are basically learning Shastra also. What they do, they have 2 months online courses, but then 10 days, you have to come and stay with the teacher. 10 days from morning 4 o'clock to evening 6 o'clock. Non-stop they're learning. Middle they go to some very nice Himalayan places. Sanskrit, same thing they're doing. Jyotish Shastra, they're doing the same thing. Ayurveda, they're doing the same thing. So they're combining between the technology and the teacher. Only technology without the teacher, the student becomes like a machine. And only that I want to learn from the teacher, stay with them, it is becoming impossible. Therefore, hybrid model is the practical model, and beyond the hybrid model, if the students have the facility, you know parents around them, teachers close to that kind of school, then like Lord Chaitanya, how fortunate the school in those time. Mahaprabhu never went to Gurukul, he went to Pathshala, right? If you see, he never shown that he stayed in a Gurukul. Yes, there were Gurukul, but not only Gurukul. Learning did not only happen through Gurukul. He would go learn from Gangadas Pandit. On the way to his home, he would take bath in the Ganga, play with his friends, he would come back. That is the most, because of course the parents were much more highly refined and educated than the teachers themselves. So they had this powerful harmony between learning from the parents and learning from the teacher also. So if that model is formed, or the model which we discussed about enabling the modern technology, enabling the connection between the teacher and the student, would be much better. So we'll stop here and meet next week for learning Arjuna's next step of life.